When I saw my sister's face smiling next to my wedding dress on her Instagram, announcing her own wedding on my date, something inside me cracked in a way I never expected. That's how it all started. Not with a fight or a harsh word. Not with a scream or a door slamming. Just with a quiet, cold shock. As if the ground had shifted under my feet and everything I thought I knew was suddenly uncertain. I was sitting in our tiny living room, the late afternoon sun pouring through the curtains and casting a honey-gold glow on the framed photos scattered on the mantel. The smell of fresh jasmine drifted in from the garden, a scent I usually found calming, but today, it couldn't soothe the tremor in my hands. Jacob was next to me, scrolling on his phone with a furrowed brow. We had been planning this wedding for months, every detail carefully chosen. The venue, the Hawthorne estate, was everything I had dreamed of since I was a little girl. The dress, the flowers, the food, the music. But now, everything was tangled up in something I couldn't yet understand. It began with my sister, Arya. She had asked to borrow my wedding dress. At first, I didn't think much of it. Sisters borrow things all the time. Clothes, books, jewelry. She was a little younger, always a bit impulsive, but I trusted her. I wanted to say yes. After all, it was supposed to be a day of love and celebration. How much trouble could it cause? But Jacob stopped me. His voice was sharp, hesitant. Claire. Wait. Check her Instagram first. I frowned, but did as he said. The moment I opened her profile, the chill came. Photos of Arya in a dress just like mine, the same ivory lace, the same delicate train. Around her finger, a ring that looked exactly like my grandmother-in-law's antique heirloom. The one Jacob had proudly promised would be mine on our wedding day. Then, the caption hit me like a punch. Our big day at the Hawthorne estate, June 18th. June 18th. The exact day Jacob and I had set for our wedding. My breath caught. I stared at the screen, disbelief and confusion swirling together. Was this some kind of cruel joke? Jacob looked at me with dark eyes. This isn't just a post, Claire. Look closer. And closer. We did. Arya had hacked into our wedding planning accounts, changing contracts, calling vendors, rerouting deliveries. She had even tried to add herself to Jacob's credit cards. Someone we trusted was deliberately sabotaging our day. For days, I was trapped in a nightmare I never imagined. Before the storm, my life felt simple, even if it wasn't perfect. Jacob and I had met in college, 2 years before he proposed under the ancient oak tree in our town's park. I still remember the way his voice trembled when he asked me to marry him. The smell of rain on fresh earth after a spring shower. The soft hum of distant laughter from children playing nearby. We were both busy, me with my job as a graphic designer at a small agency downtown, Jacob running his family's antique bookstore. Our apartment smelled like old paper and fresh coffee, the walls lined with shelves of dusty novels and my half-finished sketches pinned up near the window. Family was important to me, though it was complicated. Arya and I had grown up close in some ways, far apart in others. She was 2 years younger, fiery and free-spirited, with a streak of rebellion I never quite understood. Our parents had always been proud of us both, but their attention often felt like it shifted like the wind, 1 minute warm, the next cold. Still, we shared childhood memories that felt sacred. Summer nights chasing fireflies, whispered secrets under the stars, the thrill of family holidays filled with laughter and chaos. So when Arya asked for the dress, I wanted to believe in the sister I once knew. I told Jacob, maybe she just wants to feel close, you know? Like she's part of our celebration. He nodded but didn't look convinced. That evening, I found myself in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner as the radio played softly in the background. The smell of garlic and rosemary filled the air. I was trying to calm the knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. Jacob came in, holding his phone like a shield. I did some digging, he said quietly. She's been messing with more than just the wedding vendors. There's stuff with credit cards, fake emails, even a couple of bank accounts opened in our name. My hands trembled. Why would she do this? Jacob looked away. I don't know, but it's serious, Claire. We have to protect ourselves. The next days blurred into a tense silence. I watched Arya's social media posts with a mix of disbelief and dread. Each new picture felt like a fresh betrayal, her smiling face glowing in my dress, the ring sparkling on her finger, the date of our wedding looming closer. At first, I thought maybe she wanted attention, or was jealous in a twisted way. But then the calls started from vendors confused about double bookings, from the florist wondering who was really placing the order. My heart ached, not just for the wedding slipping through our fingers, but for the sister I thought I knew. Somewhere beneath the lies and manipulation, I wanted to understand what had broken inside her. One afternoon, Jacob and I sat together in the living room, a plan forming between us. We have to get her here, he said, voice low but steady. If she thinks she's winning, she might make a mistake. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. The thought of confronting her filled me with dread. but also a fierce determination. We'll record everything, I said. No surprises. Jacob squeezed my hand. We're doing this for us, for the life we want. And so, we called Arya, inviting her over, under the guise of making peace, the last chance before everything was lost. That evening, the doorbell rang and my heart hammered so loud I thought she could hear it. Arya walked in, her smile like a knife wrapped in velvet. We sat her down, the recorder hidden in plain sight on the coffee table. She laughed, a little too loud. I just wanted to be the star for once, she confessed, voice trembling. To show you all I could be more than the little sister. Tears welled in my eyes, but I stayed calm. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. Just to make you see. Her words hung in the air, heavy with regret, and something darker, jealousy, pain, desperation. That night, after the police arrived and took her away, I felt the weight of a family broken. The silence after Arya's arrest was thick, like the heavy fog that lingers just before dawn. I sat in the quiet of our living room, Jacob's hands steady in mine, but the space between us felt fragile, as if the night's events had stretched something thin inside me that might never fully heal. In those first hours after everything fell apart, I couldn't stop replaying her words. I just wanted to be the star for once. The raw ache behind the confession was impossible to ignore. She wasn't some villain painted in black and white. She was my sister, tangled in her own pain, desperate for love and attention in a way that turned destructive. But no matter how much I wanted to forgive, the damage was real. She'd invaded the most sacred parts of my life, my wedding, my relationship, my trust. Before all this, our days had been simple, almost ordinary in their warmth. Jacob would brew coffee early every morning, the rich smell filling the apartment, wrapping around me like a familiar hug. I'd start my work in the corner of the living room, the soft tapping of my keyboard mixing with the distant city sounds. Arya's presence was a constant, too, sometimes a burst of laughter over the phone, sometimes a shadow lurking in the background of family gatherings. She had a way of drawing attention, whether through her bright, bold clothes or her fearless opinions. Our mother often told us to stick together, to protect each other no matter what. But as I looked back, I realized that protection was a one-sided promise. I had always protected Arya from mistakes, from harsh truths, but she hadn't done the same for me. The first clue that something was wrong was subtle. A cancelled call, a delayed reply. Arya had asked more questions about our wedding plans than usual, probing about vendors, the venue, and even the ring. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was just curious, or feeling left out. But then, odd things started to happen. A florist I'd never heard of called Jacob, confused about a double booking at the Hawthorne estate. An email from a fake account tried to change the date with the caterer. Invitations we'd already sent out were mysteriously delayed. At night, my mind raced, replaying conversations, searching for signs I had missed. Jacob tried to call me with logic. It's probably a glitch, or some mistake, he said one evening, his voice soft but firm. Let's not jump to conclusions. But my gut told me otherwise. One afternoon, the knot of suspicion became impossible to ignore. Jacob was on his laptop, frowning as he clicked through bank statements and credit card records. Claire, he said quietly, not looking up. Someone's tried to add themselves to my credit card accounts. And I think it's Arya. My breath hitched. But why? What would she gain? He shook his head. I don't know, but she's crossed every line. The thought of Arya reaching into our financial life felt like a violation, like she was trying to erase the boundaries that made us safe. I tried to confront her gently, hoping for an explanation that could mend the fracture. We met at a quiet cafe near the park, where we used to play as kids. The smell of fresh coffee and baked bread filled the air. But between us, there was a cold distance. Arya, I said, voice trembling. Why are you doing this? Why mess with our wedding? Why hack our accounts? She looked down, fiddling with the silver ring on her finger, not the heirloom ring Jacob had planned for me, but a cheap replica she'd bought somewhere. I just wanted to be seen, she whispered. Always in your shadow, Claire. Always second best. The pain in her voice was real, but so was the betrayal. There are better ways to get attention, Arya. You don't have to hurt me to be heard. She looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. Maybe I'm broken. The final decision to involve the police wasn't easy. Family is family, and the thought of seeing Arya in handcuffs broke my heart. But Jacob and I knew that what she had done was serious identity theft, fraud, sabotage. It wasn't just a childish prank. It was a crime that threatened everything we had built. When the officers arrived to take her away, I stood by silently, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. I wanted to shout, to scream, to make her understand the cost of her choices, but all I could do was watch her disappear behind the police car door. In the weeks that followed, The weight of the ordeal settled over us like a winter frost. We met with lawyers and vendors to untangle the mess Arya left behind. Contracts had to be rewritten, deposits refunded, and dates confirmed again. But through the chaos, Jacob and I found strength in each other. One evening, as we sat on our small balcony watching the stars, he took my hand and said, "We'll get through this, Claire. We're going to have our day." His words felt like a balm, steady and sure. When the court date came, Arya pleaded guilty to identity theft and fraud. The judge sentenced her to probation, mandatory therapy, and a restraining order measures meant to protect us, but also to give her a chance to heal. It wasn't the ending I'd hoped for, but it was real. It was necessary. On the day of our wedding, the sky was clear and the air was warm with early summer. The Hawthorne estate was alive with flowers, laughter, and music the way I had always dreamed. As I stepped into the dress that once felt like a source of betrayal, I felt something else. Peace. Jacob smiled at me, his eyes shining with love and relief. We said our vows surrounded by friends who had stood by us, and I knew that family wasn't just about blood, it was about trust, respect, and protecting the ones you love. Even as the wedding day arrived with its promise of joy and new beginnings, the shadow of what Arya had done lingered quietly beneath the surface. It wasn't something that just vanished with the final vows or the last dance. No. It settled in the small moments, a twitch of hesitation when I saw my phone light up with an unknown number, or the way I flinched at the sound of my sister's name whispered in conversations. Jacob noticed it too, though he never said it aloud. Sometimes, I caught him staring at me with a careful tenderness, as if measuring how much of the storm inside me was still raging. But I was determined to reclaim my life to make the day and the future ours. In the days after the wedding, the process of healing began slow and uneven, like the first tentative shoots of spring breaking through winter soil. I found myself reflecting on what had happened with Arya, trying to understand not just the betrayal, but the brokenness that led her there. It wasn't easy. There were moments when anger bubbled to the surface, sharp and fierce. Moments when I wanted to turn away from the past entirely. But in quiet moments, I found clarity. Family, I realized, isn't just about who shares your blood. It's about who chooses to honor you, to support you, and to treat you with respect. Arya had been my sister by blood, but not by heart. One afternoon, I sat in my favorite chair by the window, the scent of fresh jasmine drifting in once again. Jacob was nearby, flipping through an old photo album we'd found tucked away in a box. I traced my fingers over a picture of the two of us as kids, me with my arms wrapped around a smaller, smiling Arya. "I miss the sister I thought I had," I said softly, almost to myself. Jacob closed the album and took my hand. "Maybe she's still there, somewhere, but you don't have to carry her darkness." His words were a gentle reminder that sometimes protecting yourself is an act of love not just for you, but for everyone who truly cares about you. We made the difficult decision to keep our distance from Arya, respecting the restraining order, but also preserving our own peace. It was a choice that weighed heavily on me, especially at family gatherings where her absence was a sharp ache. But over time, I learned to focus on the family I had built with Jacob, the people who stood by us through the chaos and the calm. Our friends, our co-workers, the neighbors who stopped by with flowers and warm smiles after the wedding. They reminded me that healing isn't a solo journey. It's a community effort, a circle of care. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with soft pinks and oranges, I found myself journaling again, a habit I'd started after the ordeal. Writing became my refuge, a way to untangle the mess inside my mind. I wrote about the betrayal, yes, but also about resilience, about learning to trust again, about the fragile beauty of new beginnings. I thought back to the night we confronted Arya, the tension in the room, the confession that had broken my heart. "I just wanted to be the star for once," she had said. And I understood, more than ever, that her actions, though wrong, came from a place of deep pain and loneliness. But understanding doesn't mean excusing. It means holding space for complexity, for broken people trying to find their way sometimes in the darkest ways imaginable. My wedding dress now hangs safely in the closet, untouched by the shadow of the past. It's a symbol not just of the day we finally said, "I do," but of the strength it took to get there. I've learned that self-love sometimes means drawing boundaries, protecting your happiness from those who would threaten it, even if they share your blood. And that family is, at its core, a choice to trust, to respect, and to cherish. The aftermath of Arya's arrest wasn't just about legal battles or clearing up wedding plans. It was about rebuilding the fragile trust between Jacob and me, and learning to live without the sister I thought I knew. The day after the police took her away, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me. The quiet was heavy, not the comforting kind, but the hollow silence of something lost. Jacob poured us both coffee, the bitter aroma cutting through the thick fog of my thoughts. I clutched the warm mug, grateful for the small grounding ritual. Do you think she really meant to hurt us? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Jacob looked out the window, the late morning sun catching the lines of worry on his face. I think she was hurting herself too, but that doesn't make it okay. His words echoed the conflict I felt deep inside. How do you reconcile love for family with betrayal? How do you protect yourself without turning cold? In the following days, the evidence we'd collected played out like a painful script. Emails, hacked accounts, calls from confused vendors, each detail unraveling the web Arya had spun. We sat with lawyers, meticulously untangling the mess. At one point, a vendor sighed and said, "I've never seen anything like this. It's a tragedy on so many levels." I wanted to agree. It was a tragedy for my wedding, but more so, for a sister who had lost her way. Arya's confession, recorded secretly, became the cornerstone of our case. Her voice, soft and trembling, admitting she planned to show up first at the venue, humiliate Claire, and steal the wedding, was a haunting echo in my mind. After hearing it, I felt a strange mix of sorrow and relief. Sorrow for the pain between us. Relief because the truth was finally out. The court hearing was surreal. Arya appeared pale and withdrawn, the weight of guilt heavy on her shoulders. When she pled guilty, the judge handed down a sentence of probation, mandatory therapy, and a restraining order. It wasn't punishment meant to destroy. It was a chance for her to face her demons, to seek help. But it also meant a clear line drawn between us. At home, Jacob and I slowly began to stitch together the torn fabric of our lives. We changed passwords, reset accounts, and double-checked every detail of our wedding arrangements. I found solace in small things. The sound of Jacob's laughter as he tried to teach me how to dance. The smell of fresh flowers filling the apartment. The soft light of early mornings when everything felt possible again. Our wedding day arrived, not as a perfect fairy tale, but as a deeply earned moment of love and triumph. The Hawthorne estate was bathed in golden light. Friends and family gathered, their smiles genuine and warm. As I walked down the aisle, my heart pounded not with fear, but with hope. Jacob's eyes met mine, steady and full of promise. When we said our vows, I felt the truth of our journey, the pain, the betrayal, the healing, all folding into this moment of new beginnings. Looking back, I realized that family is never simple. It's messy and complicated. It's filled with love and hurt, with loyalty and betrayal. But above all, family is about respect and trust. Sometimes, protecting yourself means protecting your happiness from those closest to you. And that, I've learned, is an act of self-love. Even as life slowly settled into a new rhythm after the wedding, the echoes of what Arya had done still lingered in the quiet corners of my mind. It was like walking through a room where the furniture had been rearranged without warning familiar, yet somehow off balance. Sometimes, late at night, I would lie awake, the soft ticking of the clock on the bedside table marking the passing seconds, and wonder how it had come to this. How had my sister, my own blood, become the architect of such betrayal? Jacob was my anchor through it all, his calm presence, the gentle squeeze of his hand when my thoughts spiraled, the way his voice softened when I needed reassurance. These were the small miracles that kept me grounded. One evening, as we sat together in the quiet of our living room, he said something that stuck with me. Family is who shows up, not just in good times, but when the world turns upside down. His words felt like a balm, because the hardest lesson I had learned was that love, real love, isn't always enough. Trust has to be earned and maintained. And sometimes, the people we expect to be our greatest supporters are the ones who hurt us the most. I also began to see Arya not just as the person who tried to steal my wedding, but as someone deeply lost. Her confession about wanting to be the star for once was a glimpse into a broken heart, a desperate need to be seen and valued. It was a reminder that pain, when left unchecked, can twist into harmful actions. I didn't excuse what she did, but I tried to understand. The therapy she was ordered to attend became her path to confronting those shadows. Though we kept our distance, I hoped that, someday, Arya might find the help she needed to heal. For me, healing came in reclaiming my story, in choosing to build a family rooted in respect and trust with Jacob, and with the friends who had stood by us. Our wedding photos capture the joy we fought so hard to protect, the way Jacob looks at me with tenderness, the laughter shared with friends, the soft light of the setting sun casting a warm glow on the day that almost wasn't. Every time I see them, I'm reminded that happiness can be fragile, but also fiercely resilient. I want to leave you with this thought. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are those we once loved the deepest. But protecting your own happiness, setting boundaries, choosing peace is not selfish. It's necessary. It's an act of self-love. After the dust settled and the court case closed, life didn't just snap back into place like a puzzle solved. Instead, it felt more like carefully rebuilding a home after a storm, one brick at a time. With steady hands and quiet resolve, the public consequences of Arya's actions rippled through our family and community in ways I hadn't anticipated. Some relatives chose sides, whispering in corners, while others offered silent support. Jacob and I became the center of a difficult story that many watched with a mix of sympathy and judgment. Yet, I learned quickly that justice doesn't always mean applause. It means quiet dignity and the courage to face what's broken. Word spread fast about the betrayal. Arya's wedding sabotage became a headline among friends and neighbors. People asked questions I didn't always want to answer. Some tried to offer sympathy. Others looked at me with pity. I hated that feeling like my pain was some sort of spectacle. But what I found most surprising was how many people reached out privately, sharing their own stories of family betrayals and toxic relatives. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, that what felt like a personal nightmare was, sadly, a common wound many bear. At the courthouse, the scene was calm but heavy. Arya, pale and quiet, stood before the judge with the weight of her actions pressing down on her. When she pled guilty to identity theft, fraud, and sabotage, I saw no victory in her eyes, only a deep, aching regret. The judge sentenced her to probation, mandatory therapy, and a restraining order to keep her away from Jacob and me. It was the justice I hoped for, firm but fair, offering her a chance for rehabilitation, but protecting our right to safety and peace. The restraining order felt like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it was a shield, a legal barrier protecting us from further harm. On the other, it marked a painful line drawn between a sister I once trusted and the reality we now lived. Family gatherings became bittersweet reminders of what was lost. Holidays without Arya's laughter felt emptier, the silence louder. But I found comfort in the family I had chosen, the friends, the new bonds, the chosen relatives who stood beside us unwaveringly. Jacob and I moved forward, not by forgetting the past, but by embracing the future with open eyes. We threw ourselves into rebuilding every detail of our wedding that Arya had tried to steal. Each invitation sent, each flower arranged, was a small victory. When the day finally came, it wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a testament to resilience. The community, once curious and judgmental, slowly turned their gaze from the drama to the strength Jacob and I showed. We weren't victims, we were survivors. Our story became one not just about betrayal, but about forgiveness, boundaries, and the power of standing firm. Healing didn't come in a rush. It was a slow unfolding, like dawn spilling light over a darkened valley. Every day held small moments that chipped away at the weight of betrayal, moments that reminded me who I truly was, beyond the pain. Jacob was my steadfast companion through it all. The way he listened when I needed to talk, how he held me close when the memories became too heavy, was a quiet strength I leaned on. One evening, as the sky blushed with sunset, we sat on our porch swing, the soft creak of the wood mingling with the distant chirp of crickets. "I never thought we'd get here," I said softly. Jacob smiled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Neither did I. But here we are stronger, together." Slowly, I rebuilt my relationship with family, setting clear boundaries where necessary. Not everyone understood, and some relationships quietly faded. But the ones that mattered grew deeper. I learned that love is not blind. It sees and respects limits. That protecting yourself isn't betrayal, it's survival. Therapy became a sanctuary, not just for Arya, but for me. Though I didn't attend her sessions, I sought my own help to process the layers of grief, anger, and relief. There, in those quiet rooms, I found tools to forgive without forgetting, to let go without losing, to understand that sometimes people hurt others because they are hurting themselves. The wedding dress, once a symbol of a nightmare, became a token of triumph. I wore it on the day Jacob and I said our vows, each delicate stitch a testament to resilience and hope. As I walked down the aisle, the scent of jasmine from the garden drifted softly around me. The light caught the lace, making it shimmer like new beginnings. That day, surrounded by those who truly loved us, I realized the greatest gift isn't perfection, but perseverance. Family isn't always who shares your blood. It's who chooses to stand by you through betrayal and healing, through joy and hardship. Thank you for listening to my story. It's one I never imagined, sharing a journey through heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately, healing. Sometimes, the people we call family can surprise us in the worst ways. They can hurt us deeply, shatter our trust, and leave us questioning everything we thought we knew. But I've learned that protecting your own happiness and peace isn't a betrayal. It's an act of self-love, setting boundaries, choosing who stays in your life, and guarding your joy. These are difficult, sometimes painful decisions, but necessary for your own well-being. I want to ask you, have you ever had to protect yourself from someone close? How did you find the strength to do it? If this story resonated with you, I hope you'll share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences, your struggles, and your healing matter. And if you haven't already, Please subscribe for more stories that remind us all we're not alone in the challenges of family, love, and life. Remember, sometimes the hardest love is the love we give ourselves.